that's good, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call the Budget Review Committee to order. It's May 7th, 2026. We're in the Aldermatic Chamber. It's Thursday, May 7th, 2026, and the meeting's been noticed in 2 places, including the city's website, in accordance with the requirements of RSA 91-A:22. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman at Large Michael B. O'Brien. Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly. Alderman at Large Alicia Gregg. Alderman Derek Tebow is here. Alderman Paula Johnson.
I am here.
Alderman Tim Senate, Vice Chair.
Here.
Alderman Richard A. Dowd, Chairman.
Present.
All right, we have 4 in attendance. That is quorum. Also in attendance, we have Tim Cummings, Administrative Services and COO, Johanny Pena, Human Resource Specialist, Peter Donovan, Payroll Manager, Kathy Fournier, Employee Benefits Manager, Nick Misovich, Chief Information Officer, Jennifer Deshays, Risk Manager, Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Michelle Welsh, Assessing Manager, Bob Gannon, GIS Specialist, Jeff Ponert, PEG Manager. We also have our CFO, Don Enright.
Okay, communications?
We have a communication from Jessica Haig, Arlington Street Community Center Director, regarding the FY27 budget.
Okay, there being no objection, I'll accept the communication places on file. Other communication?
We also got a communication after the agenda was created from COO Tim Cummings and CFO Don Enright regarding communication reducing FY27 budget down by $288,679 through a technical amendment.
If there's no objection, I'll accept the communication placed on file. Unfinished business?
None?
New business resolutions?
None?
New business ordinances?
None?
Tabled in committee?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to remove from the table R-26-028.
Motion on the floor is to remove Resolution R-26028 from the table. All accepting it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This evening, we're going to be discussing administrative services. Okay. And that is Department, we'll start with 106 on page 58 for appropriations.
I also want to make mention that Alderman at Large Lori Wilshire has joined us on Zoom.
Okay. Good. Director Cummings.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. And before I started this evening, as I had discussed with you, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to take a moment and speak to the communication that you received this afternoon and that was on your desks this evening. And I want to start by saying, for the record, we're not looking for any action to be taken on this communication, but I did want to make explicit a few points that were provided to you. And so what we, and CFO Enright is with me, what we wanted to do is take a moment, and I'm not going to read this communication. I think it speaks for itself. But we wanted to make sure that the Board of Aldermen, and specifically the Budget Review Committee, knew that after we had submitted R-26028, upon a review, we noticed that there was some technical issues with the budget, and we felt incumbent upon us to provide you with some of the correcting information, and that information is provided to you in backup to this communication. And in totality, it reduces the budget by $288,000 and $288,679. But most of it is generated through a technical amendment And then the other one is a more policy-driven amendment that we're suggesting that you consider, in the fact that we wouldn't necessarily have 14 Mulberry Street online in this fiscal year. And so I can go into more detail if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, but I wanted to just quickly summarize what the communication does. I suspect throughout the coming weeks or so, will various departments come up, you may hear that there's a correction. It's due to this specific issue. But we wanted to kind of start this evening by making you all aware of this, and then asking that at a follow-on meeting, whether it's at the next meeting or at the end of the budget review season, that you adopt this amendment first to create an even playing field, and then whatever substantive changes you want to make through your work sessions, you do through a follow-on amendment after the fact, because the original intention was essentially to present a budget that was at least $111,000 less than what it's showing right now. Thank you.
Okay, as I had explained, we just got that late this afternoon, so we're not in a position to discuss it. And at these budget hearings on reviewing the division's budget requests, we never take any action until the wrap-up session. So approving anything in this letter after we have discussions further on downstream, at a point we haven't decided yet, any action on it wouldn't happen until one of the wrap-up sessions. All right?
Yep.
All right. Next.
All right, well, with that being said, and if there's no questions, gonna just turn my attention to Department 106. It's essentially the Office of Administrative Services. This is essentially my office. It's a pretty straightforward budget. I will note that there's some increases along the way here, mainly driven by the fact that we have not been budgeting for the Ethics Review Committee over the years. That has been a relatively quiet committee, but as of recently, over the few years, it has definitely ticked up in some expenses. So we've increased the budget this year just in anticipation of a need for it. This Ethics Review Committee is not its own separate department, and so those expenses are bundled into the Administrative Services Office's budget, and that is the major driver to the administrative expenses increases this year.
Can you point out the lines that have added?
Yep, mainly it's in office supplies. I believe we increased a little bit, and we increased other expenses a little bit, mainly to capture buying new Robert's Rules books, buying some binders and some notepads, buying some additional expenses that we may need to have for the Ethics Review Committee. We wanted to capture it, so we had something mainly in those lines.
So I noticed that office supplies 6,100 went up by $500.
Yep.
And I see subscriptions. Is that involved in this, or is that other?
Yeah, nope, subscriptions really just went up because of market changes, not because of the, anything to do with the Ethics Committee.
So the increase due to the Ethics Committee is $500?
Well, and then also we're carrying some additional money in other expenses, where other expenses we're increasing as well.
Okay. Any employees?
What's that? No, not at this time, and I don't anticipate that need. But we may need some contracted services, some consulting services, and I wanted to have additional money in case that was the case.
Okay. So are there any questions relative to administrative services in the high level? Yes, Alderman Senate.
So the Ethics Review Committee expenses, you said the bulk of that was captured under your other expenses, where you're jumping from 500 to 10,000, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that where you would expect to draw upon those consulting services, or would you be drawing from your the budget under line 53-142.
Yeah, I would anticipate that we would pull it from this line and/or move the money from this line to the consulting services line if we needed to at some point, but really this was just a placeholder for us in case we needed the money throughout the year for consulting services.
Okay,
All set?
for now.
Yeah, sorry.
Alderman Johnson?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to go into salaries right now, and I got to ask this question because I didn't get the salary from this year to compare it to what's asked for in next year. So the director's salary, what is your salary right now? May I ask through the chair?
Yes.
I don't know. I would have to.
You don't know what you're making a week, a year?
No, I would have to check.
Yep, and we're going
We
to
were-
check on that.
We were submitted that.
I only have what's 27, what's going to be what they're asking for in 2027. I don't have anything in 2026. I don't have a budget book from last year because I wasn't on the board last year.
Oh, we online though, right? The budget,
I mean-
book from last year?
I mean, I can get it for you. I'll be happy to provide it to you. I don't know it off the top of my head.
All right.
And I'm just kind of going through all this a little bit because I need to know, because we're asking for more money, and we're asking, and I know that the unaffiliates lost their increases, which I don't think that's fair because the board voted on it, was an ordinance, and the mayor took it away. Doesn't the board have to come back and vote on it again with a whole new ordinance to take something away? The board giveth and the mayor taketh away?
Yeah, we'll discuss that, but it's not part of administrative services. so-
Well, he represents the mayor and he works in administrative services, and this whole thing is tied together. It is. The administrator in the office, administrative services, office administrator,
Yep.
salary? Are you going to have to get back to me on that, too?
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head. And I'll say for the record, I don't know all the individual salaries off the top of my head.
Surprised you don't know your salary.
Yeah, fine. I don't.
That's fine.
But I'd be happy to provide you whatever it is. I thought an exhibit was provided that had the salary breakdown.
It was provided as to what the salaries are currently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Senate?
Oh, thanks.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I had.
No, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To be honest, I don't know my salary where I work. I mean, I know roughly, but you know, when you go rough and you just give a ballpark, people want the exact dollar amount or they're going to come after you. If you're too high or too low, they're going to come after you. So I get that because I don't do that, and I don't remember, when I had employees, each of their salaries either. It's just, you know, you can't remember everything. So I get that. My question here is on the consulting. So according to the used for this year, I'm seeing 7,000 used, 28%. I know we have months still to go, but we haven't even used what we budgeted for last year, which was 40,000. This year, we're going to look to budget 50,000. So we're going up, but we've only used 7,000 this year. So why do we think we couldn't budget for 40,000 again? Why do we have to go up to 50?
So I would want to double check to see where we land at the end of this year, but lots of times what happens is what I have found over the last few years is the Office of Administrative Services helps provide a stopgap measure between a lot of the other admin services departments. And so I'll give you an example with payroll. So in the payroll contracted services line, they don't necessarily have all the money that they would need to be able to, finish out a contract with the consultant. So if they, need to increase the purchase order, this is one of the places I would go to add an additional amount of money as necessary to be able to, have the monies available to finish out a consultant's contract or services or whatever the case may be. I would also note in this particular year, I added some additional monies because it is an ambition of administrative services to start the conversation about looking to redevelop some land over off of West Hollis Street into recreational fields. And so that has been a closed landfill that was going to be a grocery store. It's about 8-ish acres. It is a piece of property that is looking to come back to the city because it's delinquent in its taxes. This has been an ongoing conversation for the last few years, and I really, in the back of my mind, wanted to wait till I got beyond the Mohawk Tannery project, and now that the Mohawk Tannery project is done, I feel as though it would be a good time to marshal our resources to try to redevelop that vacant piece of land into what we've heard from the community a need is some athletic fields, and of course, that's subject to more conversation, but I would be looking to use this money to be able to start that initiative.
Follow up.
Follow up?
And so you're saying you need a consultant to look at that, is that what you're saying?
That's correct. Yep, we will be starting to use some consulting services monies for this, and this would be the very start of the process to seed it, so we can start to understand what we're talking about. We will pull a team together, similar to what we did with the Mohawk Tannery, where DPW, community development, all the respective stakeholders come together regularly to start working on this project, because it will be a tough project that will take many years to solve. But it's one that now that we have the Mohawk Tannery pretty much done, I feel like it's a good project for us to really start to look at.
Okay.
Alderman
Thank you.
Senate, did you have a hand up before?
I did, I just had a quick follow-on to my
Sure.
previous line of questioning. Going back to the additional monies, because of the increased activity on the Ethics Review Committee, why is the Ethics Review Committee under Administrative Services? I'm looking at the various boards and committees and volunteer activities that we have here, and the contact for it is Attorney Clark. I would think that that committee, especially given the line of its work, would fall into the legal department.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Director Cummings.
Thank you. So you're going to see a follow-on piece of legislation in a couple months updating the city's administrative code, which hasn't been updated in a few years. What you're looking at is actually a little outdated to like how actually the city currently practices. And I agree with you, Alderman Senate. That is how it reads. I'm just telling you that by practice and what has happened is that hasn't been the case. And so I've had conversations with the legal office, and they believe it's better suited to be run out of admin services. And so we're going to continue that. The administrative code is going to be updated to reflect that, so that reads correctly. But the legal office is not the office that services the Ethics Review Committee, despite what you might be looking at.
Follow up?
All right, no, I understand I understand that organizations reorganize, reconfigure, but we kind of dig our own hole when, especially when public-facing subgroups like that, when we don't have the clarity for who's in charge. So I can see where there would be a disconnect between the budget that we're trying to craft to run the city and how the city is being run. That Alderwoman Kelly said the other night, the math doesn't math. That's all.
So if I may, I'd like to comment on that.
Director Cummings?
I completely agree with that. And in fact, what I've noticed over the years is our budget doesn't match the administrative code. And that's one of the reasons, it's been a year-long project that I've been working on to try to present an administrative code to the body that actually reflects how we operate and actually how you budget yourself. And so we're catching up here because this has been years and decades long of building of this building, and we're trying to just do some housekeeping to get this corrected, because your point is very well taken.
All set?
Yep.
Alderman Johnson?
Thank you. I want to go back to Alderman Tebow's question regarding the money, that where are you taking the money again from that you're going to use for a consultant for the established fields on West Hollis Street? Can we go through that again? How you're moving shuffling the money around here?
So if I may.
Director Cummings?
Yep, so on this one, we're not shuffling any money around. All we'd be using is money that's in the consulting services line, and what we would be using that monies for is to start the process to study the concept of developing I'm going to say two, and that's subject to more conversation, rectangular athletic fields on 8-ish acres on West Hollis Street that was a former landfill
I
site.
know exactly where that is, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt. So anything left over on that line item you're looking to capture for into next year's, into 2027? Anything left over? If you only spent 65% of that money and you don't use anything more, is that money going to go back into the general fund?
No, it would roll a surplus.
It would roll a surplus. Well, that's what I'm asking. Is it going to roll a surplus into that line item, or is it going to go back into the general fund?
Again, I want to be clear here. It doesn't necessarily go back into the general fund. It will go to surplus, and then from surplus, a decision needs to be made on how it's used, but that would be the intention.
I just want to, if you don't mind, say
follow
something
up. Go ahead.
about, thank you, about that piece of land, which is right down by where I live. Very toxic land, because they tried to build many times, and they've drilled enough that they couldn't put a bank, they couldn't put anything there. That's how toxic the land is. And the taxpayers, even if they owe money on it, we shouldn't be having to pay for cleanup. And that's another discussion with the neighborhood in Ward 5. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this level of administrative services? Seeing none, your next group would be, so on Arlington Street Community Center, we got a memo on their expenses, so we won't be discussing that. Human Resources is next, that's Department 111 and page 64.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to present on this. Johanny Pena couldn't make it this evening, and so I told her I would carry the water for her, and she, of course, is covering for our Human Resources Manager that is retired, and we're currently hiring for the position. And so I will make my comments by just saying that at the start of every department conversation, I will note whether we are changing the salaries to increase the level of services by adding a position or doing any type of deduction in positions. And that is to ensure that you are aware of any type of additional services being sought from a salary line. At this time, I'm going to say there's nothing like that for Human Resources Administration. All that you'll see for salary adjustments are the mayor's proposed salary adjustments relative to the unaffiliated salary schedule, and then I'll leave my comments there with that. Relative to expenses, it's a relatively straightforward budget. I continue to need monies for consulting services. I'm going to say now that I have noticed a trend over the last couple years that we are needing to do some more and more employee investigations that we hadn't necessarily had to do in the past, but upon advice from our legal department and other HR professionals, it's good to get this third-party assistance in review before we take any type of action. And so you'll see that I am continuing to carry money in the consulting services line item for that. I will say it's not proposed this year, but I do think there may be a conversation in the future about potentially working actually with the schools as well, of potentially creating a specific contract and consultant to retain to be able to provide this service and try to achieve an economies of scale. Right now, the schools does their own, general government does their own. It's the same type of work. Both the superintendent and I have had very good conversations about whether we could try to create an efficiency here where we try to bundle it and get a better price point. And so that's something that I would be looking to work toward over the next year or two with him. So I'll leave my comments there, Mr. Chairman, but I would ask that you favorably recommend this budget.
Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know I have to. So last year, the ask for consulting services was $125,500. If you'll recall, at the wrap-up session, I attempted to bring that down to $75,000 to cover the big ask, which was an HR audit that had failed in the previous term. To the best of my recollection, that hasn't come up this term. The additional monies were stated to be needed that following an HR audit, there would need to be a follow-on document in the form of an employee handbook. Looking at the expenditures to date on 3/31, I'm guessing that hasn't happened.
Director Cummings?
Yeah, if I may, and that's absolutely true, and the reason why is because our human resources manager retired and in January, and in anticipation of that, I didn't necessarily want to take on that big project until we brought in the new human resources manager, and we're actually actively trying to recruit for that right now, but that will be one of the main goals that we will have once we get a new leader in to help with that process. It's a critical deficiency that I want this body to be aware of. I think that this body needs to know that we absolutely need an HR audit, and we also need an employee handbook to guide some policy and some procedures that is not governed within the collective bargaining agreements. Right now, it's a hodgepodge of various different policies and procedures, and there's no fault here. This often happens when you have mom and pop operations grow organically over the years and over the decades. And at this point in time, we are no longer a mom and pop's operation, and we need to have those type of tools readily available to us. So I am continuing to request that funding. I would like to see that this money continue to be available so we can actually use those funds as I've just described.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. How long has Ms. Trask been retired?
If I may, Mr.
4
Chairman.
months?
Yeah, I was just going to say end of January.
End of January. Was this anticipated or no?
Yeah, Director Cummings?
Thank you. I'm going to say no in regards to it was not planned for in our fiscal year budget. I will say that I did not know that this retirement was going to come until actually very far along in FY26.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, I went out and I advertised for the position immediately, and the candidates that we got back internally, we felt were not at a level that we could hire for with the budget that we had. So I wanted to wait until we actually had the unaffiliated salary ordinance approved, and so there would be a little bit more salary range to be able to offer, and the FY26, hopefully FY27 budget be readily available, so we could hopefully make an offer at a little bit higher price point to get a better attractive candidate.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. So how is the interview process and the recruiting process going for that position?
Director Cummings?
Thank you. Yes. So as I said, we did a first attempt back in a January, February timeframe. We interviewed a few candidates as I described, made an assessment. We just recently, within the last few weeks, decided, and I don't know if it's been advertised yet, but it should be advertised if it hasn't any time now, start the advertising process so we can start doing interviews in June, hopefully have an offer available and ready for that July-ish timeframe.
Follow up?
Yes, one final one, sort of deviating, but along the same lines. To make the math shake out for this particular line, still looking at the spend through 3/31, looks like you had a 20,000 transfer to staffing services out of this line. What staffing services were you needing? Did you need to bring in temporary employees or?
Yeah.
Director Cummings?
Sure, if I may. What we realized was actually in financial services, there wasn't enough monies available to continue on with the staffing service hire, but they needed it. And so I was able to use this to help assist with that. And so it's funding a financial services position in financial reporting temporarily.
Thank you.
That's it? Alderman Johnson, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you. I went online and I could only get into the internal positions, I couldn't get into the external positions unless I guess I put in an application. It wouldn't let me go in, which I can't put in an application because I'm elected. But right now, I'm seeing that there's 27 positions that's being advertised through HR in the city. Is there more than 27 positions?
Director Cummings?
I don't understand the question. Yes, there are more than 27 positions.
Okay, I'm going to request all the positions that are open, because I can't get it, I can only see the internal. I can't get in to see the external. I'd like to see all the open positions and what the salaries are, please, in the city.
Director Cummings, would that be you, or is that?
Yep, no, that would be me. So I just want to clarify, so I make sure I understand what you're looking for. So you're looking for all the open positions we are hiring for as of right now,
As of right now.
and then you'd also like the various salary ranges that go with it.
Yes,
Okay.
because may I continue?
Go ahead.
Because I pulled what I could from the internal, and some of the positions that were open were dated back like in 2024. Oh, here it is. And I'm kind of curious. 2021, why would you still have a position that you seem to not be able to fill? It's probationary communications tech, but it's been open since 2021, and is that still being carried as a line item with a salary in the budget?
Director Cummings?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer this. We're getting a little far off field, but what we find is that some positions, there's constant turnover. Communication tech may be one of them, though I don't want to speak. I assume that's for fire, maybe police, but they typically are always needing to hire for a communications professional. Another example I will give you on that is parking enforcement. Parking enforcement, they are constantly hiring, and so what you might find is the same posting stays up because they are, by the time they get full complement, they end up losing someone, and so they keep it up as a way to just keep getting candidates through the door so they can keep the recruitment process going, but it's really on a position-by-position basis. I would have to look at it.
May I continue?
Follow up?
Thank you. It really isn't off because we're talking HR, and HR has to do with hiring. So these are positions that are up for hiring. But I would, if you could supply me with that, I would greatly appreciate that. On your office supplies, that line item, to date, you've only spent 19.29% of the line item. There's still amount remaining, $44,675.35. Do you anticipate that, does HR anticipate that line being completely drained? Or is that,
No.
that we gave you an overabundance of money for that?
Director Cummings?
I mean, I'm not going to answer whether you gave us an overabundance of money. I will answer that I think we will not drain that whole entire line. I think, that's probably fair to say, but, we do need office supplies. What often happens here in the city, and this isn't just HR specific, but what you'll find is departments will wait until the year end, actually, until about May timeframe, when they'll actually do all the ordering for office supplies. They'll buy what they need throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, when they kind of see what's left for the fiscal year, they'll do a lot of buying to help get them through for the next fiscal year. And so that's a common strategy that a lot of departments use. I know HR uses that. I know admin services uses that strategy as well. I know a lot of departments do.
Follow up?
Yeah, it's called if you don't use it, you lose it. And I used to watch that in the school district at the end of the year. We used to get the reports, we used to get monthly reports in finance and ops where I was a chair. And we would see how the line items each month were being dispersed and how much was left in it. So there was no surprise. And at the end of the year, you'd be in the schools and the principal discretionary fund, you know that, Alderman Dowd, Mr. Chairman. And at the end of the month, at the end of the year, they would just wipe out those accounts clean, but they're supposed to be there to use during the year as you need it, not just hold everything up to the end of the year and then take it and spend what you need for the following year. Because the following year, we're appropriating money for the next year. That's an appropriation. Thank you very much.
If I may,
So-
Mr. Chairman?
A little bit to that is, because I remember that very well from the school department, is they're concerned as the year's going along. If they spent everything out of their budget for supplies and they got to mid-year and they ran out of money, there are no buckets. So they wait a lot of times till the end of the year to get on board with their supplies. So it's usually not a ton of money that we're talking about. Alderman, Director Cummings?
No, you said what I was going to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought she was going to help you recruit there for a minute. So one thing, I wanted to actually say what she was saying, but she said it is office supplies, but she quoted the number for the 55 other services bucket, that 44,000. 44,000 was in office supplies. Office supplies is the smaller bucket. So for this one, it has stuff like employee training and certifications, employee background checks. That's the one that's coming in 19% less. So I was going to ask the same question, but not for office supplies, but for this. So are we not doing as many, we budgeted for employee training 34,000 and only used so far this year, up to March 31st, 1,000. So can you comment on those lines?
So I will say we haven't been doing as many background checks, but we do need that. You know, I don't know.
Why is that? Like,
I think the hiring has been a little bit slower. We only do background checks at a certain point, usually before offers are made or right after, or right when we're about to make an offer, or we make contingent offers. And so, you know, for that reason, we haven't been seeing as many background checks come through.
and follow up on that too.
Follow up?
You also budgeted 34,000 for employee trainings and certifications, and I understand that some jobs require certifications and they have to be done, and so is that something that's done at the end of the year, and that's why it's not in there, or is it just we didn't do as many trainings and certifications as we thought we were going to do?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
Just one other thing, and I think Dawn can probably answer this better, is I have a lot of experience with the projects on invoices. When monies get spent, things get ordered, and invoices come in to get paid. They don't get paid like overnight. It takes time. So by the time the invoices get paid, the checks are issued, and the money is actually spent, there's a period of time. So what you're seeing as an actual today, there may already be more money spent, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Follow up to that.
Go ahead.
So, and that's fine, I understand that, and that's why I asked the question the way I did. The problem with that, there's two problems with that, right? So we're trying to determine if what people are budgeting for this 27 is right compared to years past, right? And if someone just throws a number out there, yeah, I'm going to budget 50,000 for next year, and someone hasn't spent, 10% of that yet, or 20% or 50% of that, how do I know, or how do we know who are going to be voting yes or no on this budget? How do we know that it was the right number last year? We don't. We only have up until March. And like you said, just because it's March reporting doesn't mean the invoices and stuff haven't come in. The other piece of that is we hear it from the public because not everybody's watching this meeting or listening or asking those type of questions, and they just think, oh, you've only used 5,000. Well, you're not going to use all of it when you may use all of it by the time this budget season ends. So those are the two things. I mean, we talked about the open job you have for the HR manager, right?
Yes.
Someone will come to us, most likely at the hearing, and say, you got jobs open, just cancel every single job you have open, there's your money, you just saved your money. Whether you need that job or not, they don't care. Just cut those jobs, right? Because they're ghost jobs. They're not jobs that anybody fills. It's not true. We're constantly trying to fill these open positions. And like you said, you hire somebody else leaves, that position's still available, right? So I get it, but it's trying to explain it to everybody to make sure, because these budgets, I keep telling people, are complex. They have a lot to do, and that's why, I know we talked about earlier whether we should have the actuals in there or not. And again, I still think they give us some form of guide, and at least we can ask the questions, but it is really hard to determine how do we know? We're not in those internal conversations that you have with your teams, going, this is what we're going to do this year. That's why I had to ask, well, what are you consulting about? Oh, we're consulting on the West Hollis ball field. Okay, well, that's something I need to know in case somebody asks. But I'm not in those meetings, none of us are in those meetings with you and anybody else, any other departments. So how are we supposed to know what this money's really going for unless we go line by line and ask questions on every single line, right? But yet, we're the ones being held accountable for it because we have to vote yes or no when it comes down to next month or whatever. So, thank you.
Little example of that is the police department. They try to catch up to their authorized numbers all the time. And last time I checked, I think the number there were 13 short.
Yeah.
It takes time to hire people. It costs $100,000 to put a police officer on the street. And every time they get close to filling their quota, other people leave for one reason or another, go to other departments, stop wanting to be a police officer. There are a number of reasons. So those positions always have to be open because they're always trying to get to their authorized force. And the officers that aren't on the street hired has to be covered by overtime. So, and that's a lot more expensive. So you have to be able to hire people when you can hire them, especially in the police and fire departments. Any other questions on human resources? All right, moving on. We'll go on to payroll, and that's on page 66.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to ask Peter Dunman to come on up here if I could. He is the payroll manager. I'd like him to talk to you a little bit about what his department does and about his budget for next year.
Well, we hope we know what it does, pays people. But go ahead,
We do pay everybody.
and bring your microphone close to you because, thank you.
Thanks. Well, our job is to pay everyone that works for the city. That includes the school district, and not only the police and fire department, but public works and anybody else that we employ. And it's over 3,000 people. And when we produce W-2s at the end of the year, it's over 4,000 because we've had turnover of some people, new hires and terminations. And we have part-time people as well as seasonal people, so it does fluctuate quite a bit. I did want to mention, since the discussion was involving consultants, we do in payroll also use consultants. It's not always the case, but we have things that we have to comply with that are beyond our ability here for our office staff. And even though our IT department does an outstanding job, they're also limited in resources. So we get requirements from the government, like the One Big Beautiful Bill has several things in it that we have to do this year that we will need consulting help to accomplish. We also have union contracts that we can't anticipate what is going to be approved in those contracts, but sometimes they involve more than pay. It could, of course, involve how they're calculating their paid time off, which may require some adjustments that are limited in our current system. So we have to make adjustments, usually through contractors who come in and work our system as it is so that we can comply with the union contracts that are approved. So we have quite a bit in that consulting category, but we use a lot of it as in different ways. New Hampshire retirement system, they tasked us with an incredibly large task of refiling certain output files, and that took us months, and their project expanded over a year to give us time to do that. It was very expensive. So it's for payroll consulting services is not only just insurance, it's a necessity just because of the requirements that are put on us from all sorts of sources. But besides that, our budget is pretty much the same as it was last year. We do have a couple of salary issues, but that was about it.
Yeah, and if I could on that point, so just to be clear, relative to the salaries, it's no additional salary positions are being suggested, and it's just being driven either by contracts or the unaffiliated grid. I will note that actually the non-salary expenses is ticked down. So really trying to do our best to deliver a budget as efficiently as possible.
I noticed salaries and other services both went down for the next year's budget. So is that because fewer people, new people that are getting a smaller step?
Correct. Newer hires, so
Okay.
not necessarily on a higher step, and then just where we thought we could reduce some of the budget, understanding it's a tough budget, we proposed some reductions.
Okay, questions, Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, payroll's fun because it's one of the ones I don't really have to pick on. I think you had given me the rundown of your consulting services last year, and when you had brought up NHRS, I said, say no more, because my wife is also in public sector payroll, so I get to hear all about the fun ins and outs of that. I really only had I only really had a high view question. I mean, you kind of alluded to it here, but I mean, your budget mostly here is either flat or down. And then I look at the bottom of your page and you've got some performance metrics here that all show improvement over the previous 2 fiscal years. So it looks like you're working with less and you're showing improvement.
Right, if you.
What are you doing right?
Well, if you ask our people, will mention to you that they're doing more with less. And actually, I hear it every day. But it's not something that they're proud of, they're just doing it, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's not fun, but I mean, say, if these metrics are accurate, looking at the budget in front of me, I mean, whatever you're doing is working, you know, so. That's all I've got.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Keep up doing the good work.
Thank you.
I'm sure people appreciate it when you are working because they're getting paid. All right, the next item is Department 113 benefits. It's on page 69.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kathy Fournier, the city's benefit manager, is going to be joining us. And so we talk about benefits a lot here. And you have had presentations from our consultant, Hub, every year. And you're due for one, actually, after the budget season. I feel like you guys are having enough nights out that I was waiting until after you get through budget season for our next time where we are going to meet with Hub and hear a little bit about how we're doing. The long and short of it is we are doing better than a lot of our peers, but it is still a tough environment to be providing health care and medical insurance to employees. We are looking at a 12 to 13% increase year over year. I'm going to tell you that that's probably not changing for the next few years unless there's some sort of decision to offer differing services at some point, and I haven't really heard much appetite for that type of conversation. And so the budget that has been built is predicated on that, and I will note that there's one additional change this year, and it's something we've talked about, and there's a piece of legislation that is before you that will make it official, but I did want to kind of point out it is being carried in the budget, and that's the medical opt-out. And so for those of you who may not be aware, what we're suggesting, and this is a strategy that we're trying to take in an effort to do some cost containment to try to keep this budget in control, is we're going to offer a little bit of an incentive to our employees to use other health insurance that they may have available to them. The thought process is it's a win-win type situation where we wouldn't necessarily have to pay the full premium for someone if they had a family. And then in return for that, we would give them a little extra money in their paycheck. They need to qualify for this program, and If they did qualify, one of the things is they would have to go have adequate insurance somewhere else, and they would have to show that to us. And then once we deem them compliant, we would then start doing like a weekly stipend into their paycheck. And so we don't really have good visibility into how much that may cost us. And remember, cost us now means cost us more later. So we're pegging that at about $100,000 right now is just a place starter. We would need some trend data before we really felt comfortable in that, but that's kind of where we're at. And so other than that, there's really no changes to this budget. It is the same level of service. It is the same salary other than what is, either contractually obligated or the unaffiliated grid. And we're just asking you to favorably recommend this budget.
Must be a viable option since the other cities and towns in New Hampshire are also doing the same thing. If you
Agreed.
follow the
Yeah.
Agreed.
other cities' budgets, which I do.
Yep. So I'd like to hand it over to Kathy Fournier to maybe talk a minute or two about some of the services her office provides.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi there, I'm Kathy Fournier. So right now, we're in the middle of open enrollment with a new provider. Alight no longer is servicing our employee portal, and we're now with Benefit Place, which is a benefit-focused organization. The opt-out, I will have more information about that once it closes to see how many people are interested, because it is a question on the open enrollment process. And we'll find out what percentage of our employees are interested and qualify. It seems to be a great option for employees that do have coverage somewhere else, right? When you could get $5,000 if you're moving your family off of our plan into a new plan with your spouse. So it can really benefit the city because it would reduce our claims. That's the biggest thing, right? Getting those claims down so our self-funded budget, if you notice, it's gone up quite a bit against, that's probably reflecting about 13% for our medical and 3% for our dental this year. Did not have an increase with our life insurance or our VSP. But other than that, the budget is pretty standard, not a whole lot increasing. Some are decreasing. The accruals services, actuarial services are decreasing. Staffing services, we've taken those right off because right now we're fully staffed unless something changes, okay? Any other points here? Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. Office supplies went down. Forms and billing stays the same. There's not a lot of increases.
You want to talk about Smart Shopper?
Oh, Smart Shopper, I love Smart Shopper. We noticed
What
that
was the dental increase?
3%
Okay.
overall, yes. Yeah. So Smart Shopper is a program where employees go into a website, and if they need an MRI, they find a provider that's in Smart Shopper that is less expensive than going to a hospital or another facility. So they choose to get that MRI at this preferred facility, and they get money back for doing it, right? So last year, where's Smart Shopper here?
About 27, and we're going to 55.
Yeah, we are increasing it because we're noticing on the budget, where really employees are using it. So it's a product that the employees use. Their claim comes at a lesser cost because they're at a less expensive provider providing it, and then the employee will get $50 or $100. So our benefits wellness manager is really pushing for that, and we have meetings once a month to see where we are and who's using it, how many people use it, what they've received. So that's really increased, and I'm glad that we have increased that quite a bit this year. So that is one thing, so these are the little things that we're trying to do to reduce those claims.
And so to that point, right, so we're talking about a 12, 13% increase. It's these types of expenses, so you're not seeing a 15 or 16 or 17%. I was actually talking to a colleague of mine 2 nights ago who told me his health insurance budget's going up 21%. 21%. And so when I hear that, it's because of these types of strategies and the work that Kathy Fournier is doing that we're only seeing a 12, 13-ish type percent increase. And even that I still think is too high. And so, I wanted to kind of tease that out, make sure you were aware of all that. A lot of our strategy is cost containment. And so that's what's going on in the world of benefits right now.
I've talked to some of our city employees. When I find out what they're paying weekly for insurance, health insurance, my God, it's pretty high. Any questions in this area? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is, fun one, technology maintenance on page 73.
And so that is Department 120, and I'm going to ask Nick Misevich to come up and join me if I could. Mr. Chairman, I'll note that this department does not contain any type of salaries, and so I'll let Mr. Misevich talk to you a little bit about what this department does.
They work for free, is that what you're telling us?
Well, no, I can assure you, no one works for free.
Ed, Nick,
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nick Misevich, Chief Information Officer. The purpose of this budget is to collectively provide services for the city of items that don't necessarily show up in individual department budgets. And it's because IT takes care of those services on behalf of the other departments. So to get into the numbers, I'll start with the decrease, because we did have a decrease. Line 55, 125, telephone trunk lines. We were able to decrease that by $5,000 going into next year's budget, and that is due to the realization of cost reduction steps that we're taking last year. Unfortunately, line 54, 407, software maintenance, we are requesting an increase of $222,250. The biggest contributors to this is the cost of our VMware software that went from $40,000 a year to $130,000 a year. And that was due to Broadcom's purchasing of that company. And Broadcom has a long-standing history of buying out different competitors and jacking up the rates, filling their pockets, and then dumping the software after they squeezed everything out of it.
you just tell us what software we're talking about?
VMware.
VMware.
It's the virtualization software.
Okay.
Okay? The other one was MHC, which is used for the printing of purchase orders, paychecks, W-2s, such as that. And that went from $27,000 to $48,000. I am in the process of renegotiating that contract, and I will be coming to the Finance Committee this week to, in an attempt to bring that down slightly and getting into a multi-year contract. But that's for a different discussion. We are adding 2 items for next year. One is an accessibility module for the website to assist in converting the PDFs to be ADA compliant, which will meet the federal guidelines that have come down that we have to do as a government entity for their website. And another one is software for special events to help maintain that process throughout the city departments. And finally, line 55, 620, software subscription services. We're asking for an increase of $70,000, and that is due for the Microsoft software assurance provision that we have that is coming due, and it's a 3-year contract. So it's just, we're hitting the time of when that's coming due.
Question, Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was looking at the software subscriptions, and it seemed like it was up until March 31st, as a lot of some stuff hasn't been fully used yet, obviously, and some of that could be,
So that might be a great example of how the actuals aren't necessarily reflective, because we run on subscriptions and they're licensed, and those licenses, a lot of them don't come due between, I would say, April, May, June, really May, June timeframe is when Nick will be in front of the finance committee a lot
Yeah.
for renewals.
yeah, that's what I figured. My question to all that is, my job, for instance, in the last 6 months to, I don't know, maybe not even a year, as AI's everywhere now, right? Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT, and everything is just every system you have has an AI to it. Is there anything that you guys are doing with AI that is costing anything to increase in costs?
Interesting question. AI is built into some of the products we already are using.
Okay.
And it's also built into products that we are looking to move towards in the future.
Okay. And so how many jobs can we cut? I'm kidding. Don't put that out in the world. People are going to think that everything's AI here. Thank you for that. I was just curious if things had increased because of that.
Yeah, no, it's not because of AI,
Okay. Gotcha.
because that's really built into products nowadays.
Yep.
But from what you brought up before, as of yesterday, the balance remaining in that line is $101,000. So different from what you're seeing from March.
Yep. Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I guess you can sit right there for our next one. Next is Information Technology, Department 122, page 74.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so again, Nick Misevich is here. He will speak to the details. Before I hand it over to him, I just want to tease out a couple things. Want to make sure you know that the salaries are relatively stable, no new positions. I would note that they're contract-driven or driven through the unaffiliated grid, but there is no additional positions being sought this fiscal year. I do want to take a moment, though, and acknowledge and make sure that you are aware of an effort that the school department is undertaking in conjunction with the general government here, which we are in the very early stages of exploring a consolidated IT department. And so that is something that Mr. Misevich and myself are working very closely with the school administration on. We are in what I would say is the early stages, and I would only suggest over the next year or so, maybe a little less than that, but I would say a year, we're going to be in an assessment phase, and we're going to be assessing how best we can look to create some efficiencies and also still provide a high caliber of service and maybe maximize the two groups. I would say the school group has a great built-out help desk team, and they certainly have the resources there. I think maybe where they're lacking a little bit is on the infrastructure end of their IT. We certainly have that pretty built out on the city side. So we're going to be looking to explore how we might be able to advance this concept over the next year or so. And I say that to you because I would anticipate, if we're successful, FY28 budget for this department may look a little differently. And so I'll leave my comments there. I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Misevich if he wants to add anything further on that front or talk a little bit more about his IT department.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Director Cummings. I'll focus on that to the start. And yes, I am looking at both teams right now and doing a deep dive assessment as to what each entity does and how they do it, and looking for efficiencies in both how we operate and what we spend the money on. So that is a little bit of an undertaking, and I've been spending a lot of time over at the school district, getting to know the team, getting to know the administration, getting to know the principals. So it's been well-received so far, and I've found some things that we've been able to turn around relatively quickly, as well as move some projects that have stalled to get them to completion to better assist with the operations with the school district. So far, it's been going well, and I'm sure the superintendent can comment on that further.
So, my questions, and I've talked a little bit about it. Are there economies of scale due to the fact of one group? The other thing is, there are significantly more computers that'll be on your plate because the school has a lot of computers, including all the students.
Chromebooks.
But the more important thing, I think, is the improvement in security of our IT structure. If you could just touch on that for a sec.
So I will hand it over to Mr. Meisovich to talk about some of the more technical aspects, but from a business perspective, I do believe there's some economies of scale that can be achieved here. I think that's one of the reasons why Superintendent Andre and I started this conversation. So I look forward to having that conversation when we're ready for it. I think it would be remiss for us to go much further than just naming this. I don't want to suggest anything at this point, because certainly we might find as we study it that we're not as achieving some of the goals that we're thinking we might be able to achieve. I don't want to go as far as to say that there could be any type of reduction in staffing or anything like that at this time. I think the efficiencies and economies of scale we're looking at is efficiencies relative to contract service management. I think equipment integration. It'll be those type of efficiencies, and certainly we could look at efficiencies on the salary end, but that would come much later on. But I would love for Mr. Meisovich to talk about maybe some of the cybersecurity and other infrastructure type of achievements we could realize by looking at this approach more strategically.
Also, before he hits that, long-term approach, are you thinking of having all the IT department under
Yeah. So
Nick here in City Hall, and which would reduce the school board budget?
that is the long-term vision,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I think it would be fair to say, you use the word all IT departments. I want to be really clear.
No.
Police have their own IT department. They will stay
Yes,
doing their own thing.
That's a whole different issue.
Exactly. So when we say it would be really just a school migration of the IT services, most likely out of their budget and then over to the city budget. We still need to work through a lot of those details, though, because we have collective bargaining agreements in place, and so we have to be very thoughtful about how we do this. But essentially, that would be the long-term strategy or objective, I should say, with this initiative.
Nick?
All right, thank you. Just speaking from a high level, because I really don't want to go into the details on cybersecurity in a public forum. But I am reviewing their contracts, and some of the software items are used in both places. So there is definitely a possibility of economies of scale in that aspect. I just need to be careful with that, because some of their items qualify for the E-rate program, which if we combine it, then it would nullify that, and that would defeat the purpose of that program. So I just need to take all that into consideration as I perform the analysis over the next 6 to 9 months.
Okay. Questions? Wow. All right. Very good. Thank you. Next is Risk Management, Department 128, page 78.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask that Jen DeShays and Kim come up from the Risk Department. They are going to speak a little bit about what they do in risk. I am going to just start the conversation by saying that the salaries have not changed. From service level perspective, no new positions being requested this year. And it's really just salaries are driven by either contracted services or the unaffiliated grid. I will want Ms. Deshays to talk a little bit about what is driving the budget increases here, because you're going to hear in a few minutes about some significant insurance increases, and I'd like you to have a better understanding as to why.
Shane?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Jennifer Deshays, Risk Management. The Risk Management Department oversees city and school self-insurance programs. We manage claims, litigation, loss prevention. We
Could you
review
just bring your
contracts.
microphone a little closer?
Oops, I'm sorry. I feel short in this seat. We review contracts to ensure appropriate risk and risk transfer protections. We coordinate insurance renewals, actuarial assessments, safety initiatives, ADA compliance efforts, and department support related to risk claims and regulatory compliance. The risk management budget reflects continued pressure within the municipal insurance market. We have an increase in claims severity trends, construction inflation, and long-term exposure. A significant increases within the property insurance program. Property-related policies are projected at approximately $956,000 compared to the current $700,000. This includes your $800,000 core property program, and we have a $125,000 placeholder for builder's risk coverage if new construction commences during FY27. The current scheduled insured property values exceed approximately $1.3 billion. Construction inflation and replacement cost increases continue to place pressure on property valuations and municipal insurance pricing. Budget increases intended to proactively address valuation drift and avoid larger premium corrections in our future fiscal years. Moving on, workers' compensation claims budget increase from 3.7 to 4.5. This is due primarily because of high exposure medical claims, evolving presumptions laws, PTSD and cancer, and continued medical severity trends. Our general liability insurance program reflects an approximate 5.5 market increase, which is driven largely by national litigation trends and continued market pressure. The cyber liability continues to remain one of the more challenging markets, although the city has implemented additional networks and access controls that help stabilize these projected increases. FY27 also includes continued investments you'll see in safety and training and education, CDL compliance requirements, we're in charge of that program, claims mitigation efforts, and operational risk reduction initiatives across our departments. That's pretty much what I have for the rest.
And if I could, I'd like Kim Graskett, who's with us, to talk a little bit about what she does and how she's supported the risk department.
Hi there, Kimberly Grassett, Senior Risk Coordinator. The role of the Senior Risk Coordinator has kind of evolved over the past several years. Definitely providing technical support, which our IT department assists us with, but specifically with our claim software, managing that aspect, which keeps our entire claims management system running. Working on digitizing files, trying to reduce our space utilization to make room for other areas and more staff, potentially in the future, or reorganization of space within City Hall and other properties. And just providing overall support both to our safety position, along with our claims management and our administration of our insurance policies throughout the city, including managing certificates of insurance, making sure that the insurance that we're receiving from outside companies is in alignment with the contracts that we have going on in the city to protect our interests.
And so it should be noted that our risk department is for the entire city. And so our risk department handles insurance, and you should think of it as our own insurance company within the city itself, and it is enterprise-wide. So with that, Mr. Chairman, happy to take any questions.
Questions, Alderman Tebow?
Yeah, thank you. The legal services, I believe this is outside legal counsel, right?
That's correct.
So last year, you guys were trying to budget for 500,000, and I looked for an opportunity there to cut it down. We cut it down to about, I think, 322,000 here. Now, this year, you budgeted for only 300,000. How is that running as of this date, as far as how much we've used?
So that's a great question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm going to ask Kim Grassett to answer this because she's actually taken care of this on behalf of the risk department, and she can speak better to the details, but I would say just anecdotally that it's my understanding that what you proposed is actually how we're able to use that appropriately.
Thank you, Kimberly Grassett. So at the time we were doing budget last year, we didn't have enough trend data. We were concerned about upcoming litigation. Since then, a lot of those cases have come to closure. And based on the costs for those cases, and now having, I believe it's 3 years, almost 4, of trend data available to us, we were able to make a more educated assessment of what we need in that line item for this year.
And so we're comfortable with the 300,000 as proposed. We don't need the original 500,000 that was sought a couple of years ago. And I will say this is all dependent on, claims being filed and lawsuits being filed against the city. We have not seen that trend go down. It's relatively consistent year over year still. So until that changes, I think that this is at least a good planning number to use as we move forward.
Follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. I don't see the lawsuits going down. So I would think if the lawsuit doesn't involve our own legal team, then they can do the work and it doesn't have to come to an outside legal team. Is that why it might not be as much as it may have been in the past, or?
Director Cummings?
We had some pretty significant lawsuits pending before us. The federal lawsuit in particular, that is now behind us, or at least, as I understand it, predominantly behind us. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but we're at least passed through the trial, and so that was a significant expense there. We do, I will say that we do have some additional need for outside legal services. The law is an interest, there's differing facets of the law, and we shouldn't expect our legal department to be expert in all area. And certainly we may need assistance from attorneys from time to time, and this would be readily available to them if need be. But it is predominantly litigation-based type legal assistance, because litigation is very hard to budget for. It ebbs and flows, and to be my wife's a litigator. I know this very well, and so, it takes a lot of time when it's necessary, and then there's a lot of downtime. And so lots of companies, when it comes to legal work that is litigation, outsource it, and that just happens to be where we are at this time.
Great, thank you.
Any other, yes, Alderman Johnson.
Thank you. I'm just kind of curious here. Your automobile claims, how many do we get a year? Do we get any accidents with the city vehicles?
I couldn't tell you how many we get a year.
Your name for the record?
Jennifer Deshays, Risk Management. Paul, Alderman
It's okay, we've known each other.
Johnson, my
for-
apologies. I couldn't tell you. I can get you that number, but at this point, yeah, I don't have that with me.
If you'd be kind enough to do that,
Yeah.
I greatly appreciate it. And
Follow
can I
up?
continue?
Yep.
What about long-term disability claims? Could you,
How many do we see a year?
yeah,
We see a couple right now, but again, that isn't something that you can trend out. There are some years that we see, a handful, and others that, we see more.
am I continue?
Continue.
And the property claims, is that for if snow plowing, they hit a mailbox or something?
No,
Property
no,
claims?
the property claims are first party, so it's city property.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All set? Alderman Senate?
To Alderman Johnson's question, just a plow hits a mailbox, that'd be general liability?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
So just a question on workman's comp and those types of claims, that includes the police department, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that a lot of people don't understand that our police officers are put in harm's way quite a bit and get injured and are out of work. And they don't publicize it a lot, but it happens, and we have to cover them. Anyone else? Thank you.
All right.
So now we'll go to city buildings.
Excellent, and so I'm going to ask Kim to step away for a moment, and I'm going to ask Ross Dugas to come up. And so, Mr. Chairman, as we transitioned here, I'm just going to note that we have Ross Dugas joining us. He is part of the risk department, but as we have been building out a more robust facilities group here in the city, which, as you may or may not know, has been managed through the risk department over the years. Russ Dugas and Jennifer Deshays have been, over the last year or so, working towards the goal that we all share to have a more enhanced facilities group. So I thought it only good and pertinent to have Russ join us this evening as well. And so, unlike my prior comments, Mr. Chairman, I want to note in this year's salary wages, there is an additional budgeted position half year. I originally had proposed a full year. Really just wanting to stay true to the conversations I've had with everyone thus far about us building out a more robust facilities group here in the city. But understanding the budget constraints that we're under, and after some conversations with the mayor, it's certainly understandable that we're reducing it down. And so we're going to look to only half fund the position this year, and with the anticipation of fully funding in FY28. At least that's the proposal at hand right now. Truthfully, from an operational perspective, it's certainly acceptable, because we need to go out and advertise. We need to hire. Taking 6 months might take us. It might be a little bit long in a conversation, but certainly it's a 3-month process. So we're not hampered all that much by the delay. But I do want to point out that that is something that we're working toward. Other than that, I wanted to hand it over to Jen Deshays to talk a little bit about the work that the City Buildings Group has done over the last year and what they plan to do over the next year, and then have Ross finish out with some of the stuff that he's done.
One question, long-term, we've talked about forming an organization much like Sean's in the school district, which will take time, and will probably save a lot of money as if we take care of deferred maintenance, as I'm sure Alderman Johnson fully realizes. And we need a group that can do that. So we're anxious to get going on this, and appreciate the direction we're headed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll just note, Rome wasn't built in a day, so we're taking it slow and steady, and we are understanding of a lot of the pressures on the operational budget. So, to get to where the schools are is going to take us a few years, but we are making a concerted effort. One of the things, and I don't want to steal their thunder, but we have moved the libraries budget costs over 2 city buildings this year, for FY '27. We have actively worked with the library department and the library board of trustees, and they all are in agreement that this centralized approach makes a lot of sense. And so we are working towards that goal. Similarly, with similar conversations are actively going on with DPW right now as well. And so we anticipate, so we focused on library first. We're going to get them situated. Then we're going to focus on DPW next over the next year or so, get them situated, so on and so forth. So we over the next couple of years, we will have that centralized facilities group that I talked about. I'll note that the goldenrod copy that you have in front of you, one of the items that should be noted is that we did need to make some adjustments because some of the utilities and property services weren't originally carried over in our proposed budget, and we're trying to correct that. And with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask Jennifer Deshays to comment a little bit about what's happening in the City Buildings Department.
I'm Jennifer Deshays, Risk Management. The budget reflects the continued transition from our Buildings and Grounds Department to the newly constructed or structured Department of Facilities and Capital Management, basically focusing on improving operational efficiency, centralized oversight, and long-term facility management citywide. One of the primary operational changes is moving away from staff being dispersed across multiple facilities and instead assigning these employees to primary building responsibilities to improve accountability, consistency, and response times. The department's been working closely, as Tim said, with the public library to become more familiar with the building operations and the maintenance needs, the HVAC systems, and long-term facility support requirements as part of a more coordinated citywide facilities approach. The department's currently testing a facilities ticketing work order system intended to improve maintenance tracking, communications, prioritization, and operational accountability. The proposed budget, reflects an effort to consolidate many of our systems, like our HVAC systems, our fire support systems. So you're not having these departments, or the departments or the buildings, each budgeting with different companies. It's more of a consolidated effort for cost savings. I believe, I think that's all I have. And I'm going to pass it on to Ross.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Ross Dugas, Risk Management. Thank you, Director Cummings. Thank you, Jen. If I may, just, Jen, you covered a good portion of, it's okay, what's going on, but just really to kind of streamline what we're looking to do. We're looking to increase operational efficiency. I do think we're very efficient now. We are looking to streamline this, proactive maintenance. As Jen mentioned, the work order management system is something that will help us organize, disperse. We're looking to be proactive versus reactive. If we're getting ahead of things, obviously that's going to cost a lot less money than when it hits the fan, if you will. So we're looking for that. Obviously, safety. Safety has been a big part of my job here in risk management for the last 16 and a half years. That's always going to be first and foremost, is offering a safe place for our employees to come and work every day where they can feel comfortable in the buildings that they work at. Emergency response, we like to do a lot of in-house emergency response if we can versus outsourcing. Obviously, that can get pretty expensive if we're having to outsource any cleanup, mitigation efforts, things like that. Coordination and communication. The work order system is going to be a great way to organize staff and to, again, streamline response times and corrective actions and help us trend things out for the future, where if we're seeing a lot of these same items starting to come up in our work order systems, we can pay a little bit more attention to that, see what's going on. Another thing would be our energy management. We're looking from a sustainable standpoint, how can we improve our overhead of costs, utilities, things like that. I know there's other departments that are involved in that within City Hall as well, such as Doria. But as we all continue to work together, I think that's, whether it's equipment selection or things when we're maybe upgrading an office space or something. We're looking at ideas and options and things that we can utilize to reduce overall costs in the long run. Finally, I would just like to touch upon vendor management, entering into, and nothing specific to a 1 year, 3 year, but entering into contracts where some of the work might be outside of our scope, whether, for example, it could be seasonal maintenance for our HVAC rooftop units, or just our annual maintenance like you would have done at your house on your systems. Again, that's part of the proactivity versus the reactivity, where we'd want to get ahead of things with guaranteed scheduling of services that might be above our scope of maintenance specialists and our custodial staff as well. So, yeah, I think that's
Questions? Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just looking out to the future as this division develops and grows, especially here in the property services right now, we see a lot of modest to maybe a bit large jumps. And you touched upon that, that's absorbing some of the costs from a facility like the library or something. So looking down the road to fiscal '28 beyond, we could expect to see this particular department with some significant jumps over the next couple of years as you bring more buildings under that umbrella. Would that be correct in assuming?
If I,
Director Cummings.
thank you. So, great question, and here's what I'm going to say at this time. I'm really hoping not to see any more significant increases, because here's why. But really, I'm going out on a limb on what I'm about to say. If we can sell the Elm Street Middle School, that's roughly a $300,000 operational cost that we'll be able to take those monies that we already have in this budget and repurpose them for these expenses without actually having to raise additional monies. And so we're going to need that to happen to make what I'm saying come true. But I do believe, for the most part, we have seen a lot of the property services type expenses. I think in fairness, there's probably going to be some additional personnel expenses that might come down the pike in the next couple of years as we get a better assessment and a better calibration of true need for custodians versus building maintenance versus what we can outsource from professionals, to whether we want to bring electricians and carpenters and plumbers in-house like they do at the school department. So I think that will be an ongoing evaluation. We need to get a facilities manager in first, get that professional here to help guide us and talk us through what their plan might be and how they're going to work within the constraints of the city, and I'll be there to help them through that. And then once that happens, we'll start to see maybe some of those personnel increases being recommended to you to consider. But I'd really like to see the property services at this time really remain stable. That's my goal.
Follow-up?
Thank you. So I know this is relatively new, ongoing, obviously. Where are we at in terms of facilities that have their own maintenance under their own umbrella versus already being under this? We had a 50%, 30%?
I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question. I'm not 100% sure what you're asking, but let me see if my answer answers your question. So, DPW doesn't really have a robust facilities group. Library had a couple personnel, and we're absorbing them in the FY27 budget. Police has their own facilities group, and they will still maintain their own facilities group, and it's never going to be contemplated that they get absorbed in, or at least that hasn't been the conversation to date. Fire does not really have a facilities group, and the fire department here is a little bit unique. I think it's going to be fair to say that we would look to take on the custodial work for the fire department. I'm sorry, just the opposite. We will take on the building maintenance work for the fire department. They will continue to do the custodial work, and that's a lot of the culture that the fire department has, and it's built into what they do. So we're going to have to work through that over the coming years. But what we've heard, and I think Alderman Johnson has made this point very clear, and it's a good point. The city over the years has not taken care of the buildings like the way we probably should have, so we don't really have that operational infrastructure built out. And so a couple of the places where we are going to take those in. And then once we stabilize, we'll look to see where best to grow.
What's this?
Thank you.
Alderman Johnson?
Thank you. Through you to Director Cummings, how many buildings are we talking about here?
I'm actually going to hand that over to Mr. Dugas, who can answer that one.
Sure.
Dugas.
Yes, hi.
Thank you.
Ross
Good to
Dugas,
see you.
if I may. So currently, we have 10. We have roughly 10. And then what we're looking to do, as Director Cummings alluded to, is obviously we're taking on the library this year, which is one of our 10. And then the discussions for years to follow would be, hopefully DPW and possibly fire department. So that would be roughly, I'd say 12 to 13 buildings over the next few years to bring that to about 23.
There's 6 fire stations. So that
And
would
then
be
fire
6,
alarm, yes.
yeah.
Sorry.
And DPW has the office building, but they would soon have another facility.
Right.
But,
Correct, which isn't accounted for.
yeah. Follow one?
Yeah, so you said exactly 23 buildings, you're saying?
Give or take, yeah,
In that range.
in that range, yeah.
Have the city, may I continue?
Did
Has the city ever talked about maybe combining with the school district so we're not overlapping services?
If I,
Director Cummings?
if I may, it's my understanding that that was studied quite a few years ago, before my time. I think that is something that we should look at doing, but what I think we need to do is get the general government side a little bit more caught up. Once we get there, then I do think, similar to like the conversation that Superintendent Andre and I are having relative to the IT, we could then start to have a conversation about a joint facilities group, and that could be a goal that we set over, in the next 5-10 years. But right now, the city is so far removed or so further back than the schools. We really need to get our centralized group up and running, similar to like the way we have with IT. And then once we get that stabilized, certainly we could look to merge the two.
Alderman Johnson?
Thank you. The reason I'm asking this, because I remember when I first got on the Board of Ed, that was in 2000, that's when I met everybody, lovely people. I talked about the purchasing department. Why aren't we combining that? Because you're duplicating services. You want to work smarter, not harder, and cost more money. And for some reason, government doesn't work smarter. They work harder, and it costs us more money, which would be the opposite where corporations combine services. So I'm just throwing this out here, that we should really be looking, because it's costing us almost double with the school district having their own purchasing, their own maintenance, their own IT, those are the big 3, and we're having the same things. And it's costing us a lot of money, because can we get better purchasing prices if in fact we're combined together, because you're buying more bulk? Like you go to BJ's, Costco's, and Sam's because you get a better deal on the bulk items than you do if you go over, I'd say, Staples and buy 1 ream of paper. So, we should really be working smarter, not harder here. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing that complicates that sometimes is the difference in availability of funding from, remember when we give the school department their money, it's their money, and their pay for their maintenance facilities. It would take some time to switch over and find out how to do that, but the school department, has a hard enough time with 20 buildings and schools, and I know their staff is working all the time, so it's been talked about, but it's probably long-term. I think we have to establish what we can do with the city buildings first before we can even talk about merging. And again, it would be, how do you fund it? Where's the money come from? City side, school side, but that's long-term. All right. Any other questions? I get one question. Is the HVAC system done in this building?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is the new HVAC system that we funded done in this building?
HVAC.
Oh, HVAC.
HVAC.
Doesn't feel like.
Ross Dugas, Phase 1, yes. So we're not at 100% completion, but yes, Phase 1 is substantially complete. We have 2 boilers here in the building.
The way we're going, I'd be more concerned about air conditioning.
Yes, we'll
All
have
right.
plenty of cool air this summer.
All right, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, thank you. Next is purchasing. That's Department 130 on page 83.
So, Mr. Chairman, Amy Gerard is going to be joining us in a second. You know, usually she gets to come up here every year and tell you that she's under the guideline. I'll be curious to hear if she's able to say that again this year. I actually don't think so. But, Mr. Chairman, again, for the record, no salary increases here other than what's driven either by contract or unaffiliated grid changes, and again, no offering of additional positions, and we're trying to keep a stable service. I will hand it over to Ms. Gerard to talk a little bit about her department and the budget she's proposing.
Thank you, Director Cummings. For the record, Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager for the city. Some of you may know me from the Finance Committee. The Purchasing Department is responsible for a number of services that support daily operations, such as contract coordination, oversight of purchase orders, solicitation, mail operations, and the print shop. These services support departments citywide and help ensure consistency, efficiency, and compliance in procurement activities. The mayor's proposed budget for the department reflects an increase of approximately 3.35%. I know, I'm sorry. Most years I do come in under, but unfortunately I was not able to do that this year. Despite ongoing market volatility and rising operational costs, the department continues to focus on strategic procurement practices that generate savings and provide long-term value for the city. One accomplishment that I would like to highlight is our fuel contract procurement that occurred earlier this year. In February, we locked in unleaded fuel for $2.39 per gallon and diesel fuel for $2.54 per gallon for FY27. Based on current market conditions, if I were looking to lock in today, we would be looking at significantly more per gallon. This proactive purchase has resulted in cost savings for the city and stability to departments. The proposed budget before you tonight will allow purchasing to continue providing efficient procurement services, maintain support for the city departments, and pursue cost-saving opportunities wherever possible. Thank you.
Questions? No? Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Next is assessing. That's Department 132, page 85.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so coming up and joining me is Michelle Welch, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about her view of assessing and how the department is going and the proposal for the FY27 budget in just a moment here. I will say that this particular budget, I'm going to just note, does have some adjustments needed from which is reflected in the goldenrod copy for unfortunately, some salary monies were missed originally, and it's twofold. One, it's some existing salary money that is not reflected in your budget, but then also following the guidance that has been given to us by Whitney Consulting Group, they've recommended that we look to bring another assessor in. And so what we're proposing is half a year assessing service increases starting in January, similar to like what I described with the facilities manager. So there would be an additional 0.5 in this salary line for an assessor to come in-house. What we do right now is offer that, or receive that service, I should say, through contracted services. And certainly we could continue down that path. And Whitney Consulting, despite it probably being bad business for them, really believes it would be better for us to bring that expertise in-house, we would get it more efficiently. And so this budget takes that recommendation and tries to implement it. Again, we'll try to grow that into a full-year position and come FY '28. I did want to take a moment and acknowledge that new position being suggested at a 0.5 starting in January. Otherwise, any other type of salary increases, either contract-driven or the unaffiliated grid. And with that being said, I will hand it over now to Ms. Welch to talk a little bit about the budget and what's happening in assessing.
So other than Michelle Welch, assessing manager.
Thank you.
Other than the actual salary range, we remain kind of flat from year to year, and it's because we have contracted for multi-year services with Whitney Consulting, with Sanssouci, and with Vision, who are our 3 independent contractors that provide services that we're not able to house in-house due to our staffing shortage.
Okay. Questions? Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cummings, did I understand you correctly? You said there were salary adjustments to be made to this department's budget that are not reflected in the budget in front of us?
That's right.
And those are reflected in the memo we accepted?
That's correct.
And so that, Mr. Chairman, is something that we would amend at our wrap-up session?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Alderman Johnson?
Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit confused here, maybe. How are we missing putting salaries into this budget? And you know, I guess I hear, you know, there was a mistake, there was this. How do you work on a budget? I'm sitting here with the budget book here. I'm sitting here with actuals here. Now I'm waiting for actuals to come in, you know, with the salaries from 2026 to the proposed salaries. So I'm going to be a book here, a bunch of papers here. Now I'm going to have paperwork that we're going to amend. I mean, I think I've never seen this, excuse me, a mess like this before in my life. This is really hard to comprehend and figure this out. We're supposed to be listening to the departments, making a sound decision on how we're going to spend the taxpayers' dollars here, and yet this is just a total mess. Nothing came in. Maybe we should stop it and start all over again and say we want everything in one book correct. Because I have a hard time, and I speak to a lot of people where I work. I see my constituents and I see people throughout the city all day long who are talking to me about everything. My constituents in Ward 5. And they're just horrified on what's going on here because nothing is correct here. How do we make that sound decision at the end of the day for our constituents? I don't think we can. And I'm really upset about this, and everybody who lives in the city and the board here, our committee should be upset that nothing's correct here. I'm sorry, but I had to say this because it just keeps going on all night long with one mistake after the other. Thank you.
Now, we are going to discuss it later, but we just got that memo this afternoon, so we will be talking about it, but not tonight. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you. I just want to say, I don't think nothing is correct in this book. I mean, I think it would be going far to say that. I think that's, I mean, people have been working on this for a long time, and it's a hard thing. It's complex, and yes, people make mistakes. Things don't get put in that should. I get it. It's human error. It's not necessarily anything conniving or nefarious. And yes, we do need to see the stuff, and we do need it to be correct so we can vote on this at the end. I think, you know, what I think Director Cummings was saying before the meeting was that, you know, this was what the budget book was supposed to look like. So it's not necessarily an amendment. It's an amendment, but it's not an amendment to what we would normally do when we cut and we add and we change. It's more of this is what it should have been all along. It still needs an amendment because we got the wrong numbers. But I just want to say that, you know, not everything in this budget book is incorrect. That would be going really far.
And if I may?
Yes, Director Cummings?
Points well taken. And I think we should not lose sight of the order of magnitude here. We're talking about total expenditures of over $500 million. And we're talking about, from a materiality type perspective, reducing that down by, $100,000 to $200,000. Full acknowledgement, there's some line items that read wrong, and the answer to that is, very simply, is some of our information systems, some of our software is getting kind of old, and we entered that in, and it got uploaded, and some of the upload didn't take, and we were moving quickly, and so therefore, we didn't have that number correct, and it got filed. And we're at the early stages of a budget process. It's in May, and we're working through this together, and we wanted to bring this to you so you knew what the original intention was. And by the way, it reduces the budget down, and we wanted to make you all aware of that, and that's why we are having this conversation. And certainly, I hear the criticism, I take it fully, and I acknowledge it. But, we do the best that we can.
Two things. We'll talk about it later at another meeting. And also, I have asked the Budget Committee to think about what we want to see in the FY28 book to eliminate some of these issues. So we will be having that discussion after we're done with this budget session about the book we want to see next year and the scheduling and timing that we want to see it. But, right now, we're dealing with what we have to deal with. So, Alderman Johnson.
Thank you. I'm going to say this. This isn't my first rodeo. And all the budget books I've worked with always had the original budget, the available, the actual. You had everything in there. I guess that was last year's. And you would have it would be the 2026 and the 2027, so you'd have the budget you were working from and the new budget and what you're proposing. I mean, this is, like I said, this is really a horror show right now because you've got so many papers that I have to take this and integrate this into the book. And then, great, we reduced the budget. We didn't reduce it by millions, but we reduced some of it, and I'm happy with that. But I mean, you're looking at all of this that's sitting here that you've got to try to integrate and make that sound decision. If I was a new person on having to look at this budget, I probably wouldn't know where to begin because they would have no knowledge of it, like the seasoned aldermen that have been on this budget committee, been an alderman, and I've been an alderman in the past and on the Board of Ed, so I know what the budgets look like. And it's constructive criticism that you don't want this to happen again, but you know what? People are going to get lost in this. The average person wouldn't even know what was going on in this budget if they asked for a budget book because there's no information in it. And I'm sorry. I mean, you might not like me saying this, but, this is when you're doing 5 million plus, this isn't like a penny that's going into a bucket. This is going to be, is the taxpayers going to get a 6% increase, an 8% increase? And this is what we're working with. So every line item is important. And so this is why I'm bringing it up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions on assessing? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, GIS was a memo, we don't need to talk about that, that's pretty level. And the next, and finally, with half our audience, is community television. 2505, and it's on page 92.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I actually asked for this department budget conversation. Originally, it was proposed to be a memo, but I felt it pertinent to make sure that we have a start of a conversation this evening relative to community television. And make sure that everyone is aware of the current situation. And so before we get into the details of this particular budget, I want to take a step back and make sure everyone understands that we fund this department, if you will, through the Comcast franchise fee. And that is something like 4% of the cable bills coming into the city, get sent to the city's general fund. And then over the years, we were able to operate this department with 1 out of that 4%, 2 out of that 4%, 3 out of that 4%. And I want to make sure folks know now that we are at a tipping point where we're more like at the 4% mark. And so all the Comcast fee is now going to go completely to funding this department. And because of how the market is changing and the fact that more and more people are not paying for cable, we are seeing that the money's coming in is not enough to support this department. And so I don't want to sound the alarm now for FY27. We have a plan that can fund us through FY27, but I want to be really clear. Come FY28, I don't believe the franchise fee is going to be able to support this department's budget any longer. And so this community is going to need to make some decisions and give us some direction as to what you'd like us to do. And so I wanted to make sure I was explicit in those details now, so you were all well aware of that. And I think that's probably a larger conversation and probably a conversation we need to have on another night, but I felt remiss not to be bringing it up now as we're talking about the FY27 budget. And so with that being said, Mr. Chairman, no material changes to the salary, no additional positions being added. Any of the salaries are relative to either contract agreements or the unaffiliated grid. And all the expenses as driven are pretty much driven by just market type changes, but I'll leave it to Jeff here to talk to you a little bit more about his department and the budget that's proposed.
All right, thank you, Director. Jeff Painter, PEG Manager. I'll take it from our mission statement. We provide residents with access to information, resources, and programming that promote transparency, civic engagement, and community connection. We do this by delivering programming that informs residents about city government, educational institutions, and the broader Nashville community, while also encouraging public participation and discourse. That's what I have.
Okay. Questions? Alderman Johnson.
Thank you. I don't have a question. I just want to say you're doing a great job because I was on the board when we instituted this. And I want to say it was the best thing we did for the community to have the station back when it was TV 13.
I was very surprised when I first came in 2007 that more hadn't been done, but then that was it. That was what we started from there.
Right, and we put it out for the residents of the city to be able to watch the meetings, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you do and everybody in your department.
Oh, thank you.
Other questions?
I was going to add, also, I just wanted to highlight some accomplishments we've had in the last year.
Sure, go ahead.
We filled 2 videographer positions. Now, these are part-time. They're not full-time. They don't have benefits. But we've got a pool of videographers, and on any given week, a lot of times, boy, we've really been stretched for people covering meetings. So it's great to have these 2 new people on. We upgraded our video editing systems to improve efficiency and support advanced production workflows. We've enhanced our sports and field production capabilities, improving overall quality and reliability of remote broadcasts. We've also expanded our social media presence and increased visibility at community events, driving viewership across Comcast cable channels and online platforms. We did receive 3 awards from the Alliance for Community Media, the Northeast region, in recognition of our programming excellence. And we can thank Dan Young and Pete Johnson for those. We increased the amount of programming available with closed captioning to meet the new ADA requirements and improve accessibility. On that, as of January 1st, every meeting we cover is closed captioned. And it just came out in this last week that the requirements for the visual ADA, and that would require, that's a big requirement. It's an AI situation there, that, excuse me, they've given us another year until next year, until we're required for that. So that's really good, because that expense is quite high to go with that. But we are definitely closed caption on every meeting now.
Well, I can say that as alderman, we probably see more of you people than we do anybody else in the city, since you're doing every meeting. The one concern I have on your part, not on our part, is that sometimes meetings get shifted, canceled and whatever, and your videographers aren't informed. So we've got to, Director Cummings, we've got to improve that communication between them and the people that schedule meetings, so that they're not having to go out to Nashua High North and there's no meeting, or you know, so.
Yes.
That's the only thing I have. Anyone else?
No, I know Donna Graham does her best to
Oh, I know.
inform us on anything that happens in here.
Yeah, sometimes it's a communication issue with who's on first, the city or the school department, or, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
anyway.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so that wraps up the assessing administrative services division, rather. Unless you have any final words, no? Oh.
No, not at all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Tebow?
I'd like to make a motion to table R-26-028 as, well, not amended, but
No.
as is.
Okay, the motion is to table R 26-028. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment, is there anyone that wishes to express an opinion on public comment?
Lori Ortolano. I didn't know we had a COO position in the city, and I think that's worth discussing how that got created and how it's defined. Regarding Ms. Johnson's question about open positions, I don't think that Director Cummings stated it the way that Ms. Johnson wanted it. He's going to get a list of all open positions that we have posted right now. I would like to see all open positions, whether they're posted or not. We want to know. Some of them may not be posted because you haven't been able to fill them. All open positions, I think, is what you might want to ask for, Ms. Johnson, to correct that. Alderman Senat, your question about Ethics Committee, it's well taken. The Ethics Committee in Nashua was always under the legal office through 2017 and after. It was only in the last few years that it got moved to the Right to Know Administrator in Director Cummings' office. That position is a disaster. That position should be eliminated. This individual is not present, has flex hours, you can't reach him, you can't call him, and I've heard a lot of people complain. If you're gonna have a right to know coordinator, put him in a place where people can access him. But right now, he serves as the conduit, and it's a disaster. Today, I came over to look at the minutes from 2017 up, went to the clerk's office. No minutes are there. They said they're all on the website. They are not. They're not posted where they're supposed to be posted. And all of this was handled through legal. Portsmouth, Keene, Manchester, Concord, their ethics committee is run through their legal office. And I think that's where ours belongs as well. You know, if you have a conflict, that's the situation. I want to understand in assessing, I got a right to know request filled by HR that showed me open positions without names. But right now in assessing, we have 8 positions. How many people are actually in assessing? You know, there's
1 minute.
Okay, so we need to figure out how many are actually in there. I think there may only be 3 or 4, and while we want to have a potentially a full-time, you know, a chief position to budget for that, I understand that, but I don't want to see 3 or 4 more positions funded in there that are just funded if we're not going to fill them. Internal investigations, I think that's an interesting one. I have always believed that those contracts go through legal, and when I
30
did a right to
seconds.
know to get contracts, I was never given those contracts. And they're not in the folder in the clerk's office. These internal investigation amounts are high, and I also think the Finance Committee ought to pass legislation so that some of these contracts with legal come to the finance committee that exceed 25,000. McLean Middleton was paid 650,000 in legal fees that the board did not know about. And that company was representing
Time.
the shell corporations. I think you need legislation. There's a lot more I could say. I'm going to write stuff down, and hopefully at the hearing, Alderman Dowd, you will let us have our time to ask our questions. Thank you.
All right. General discussion, Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple of thoughts on where the discussions led us tonight. I know sometimes it feels like we're focusing on small dollar amounts that in the grand scheme of the budget do feel like a drop in the bucket. It may seem nitpicky, but these are micro-level questions that I don't think should be downplayed. To the listening public, to many of us here, they're relatable examples of day-to-day budgeting practices that I think demonstrate the manner in which we're managing the residents' tax dollars. It's what we were put here to do. It's the goal of this committee. So whether it's 200,000 or 2 million, I think that's all valid. In regard to the budget book itself, I haven't been an alderman as long as most folks, but I have worked in accounting and finance. I'm coming up on, I think, 15 years now. So budgets aren't Greek to me. And a general rule of thumb I've always been taught is that the information that you provide, whether it's to, a higher up, a manager in another division, an auditor from the outside who's checking the quality of your work, is that the information is only as good as it is useful to the end user. A good rule of thumb that we often try to practice is to assume that the end user doesn't have the institutionalized knowledge that the creator of the document shares. With that in mind, I'm sharing my colleague from Ward 5's struggles in adequately reviewing this budget. This information should be in front of us on the page as it is. I know that traditionally it would be only through the end of Q3. That's fine. That's standard budget practice because you can go through the end of Q3 and relatively safely predict what'll happen in Q4 and understand the financial choices that you're making. And without this in front of me, having to juggle, Alderman Johnson has papers everywhere. I'm more electronic driven. I've got way too many tabs open for somebody who struggles with ADHD. And really, the end thought is that if the goal of this document, this book, this electronic document that we have, is to get me or Alderman Johnson or Alderman Tebow or anybody to endorse it for adoption, incomplete information and moving the goalposts while we're in the midst of the review process doesn't feel to me like the most sound approach. It's really hard to dig into this year and feel like I've got my hands around it. And that's not a problem I had last year. It's a problem I had year one because this was all new to me. But I feel like I've regressed here, and I'm hoping that it's not me. And I don't think it is. And that's all I've got.
Okay, Alderman Johnson?
Thank you. I feel his pain with ADHD. I keep saying it's 71, I'm ADD, But it's like I'm saying this, it's because I get it. There's a lot of papers. I could probably figure this out. But there's other colleagues that won't be able to, who are new on the board. And we have to think about them, who've never served before, and to be able to understand this budget. When it gets before the full board, and we start discussing it, are they going to be able to understand when there's pages missing and information that's missing? So I have suggestions when we come up to that. And one of the suggestions is go back to the way it was originally so people can understand it. To Mr. Cummings, through you, the chair, Ms. Ortolato, I guess, explained it a little bit better. Maybe I left a few things out. All positions, posted and non-posted, at this point in time that you're going to want to fill, and salaries, please. Because I need to know exactly where we're going, because right now, things are kind of messed up. I don't know. Like I said, I went on to the internal, 27 position internally, but there could be another 20 position externally that's opened, and I want to see, because those positions have money associated with them. And the question is, are we going to be able to fill every one of those positions? Because we sat here with the school district the other night. That can't go below 5.5%, because they can't. And I'm reaching out to Mr. Gray to get some more information. And I keep thinking, if that budget comes in at 6%, what's it going to do to the rest of the city? Are we going to be able to afford the services? Because that department, and I've seen it for years of being on that school board, managing their finances. And I never voted for their budget because I didn't feel the budget was correct. And the worst of it was during COVID with those ESSA funds. Positions, we created new positions with the ESSA funds, my concern, and you could go back, because I was chair of the Finance and Operations Committee, and I'd ask the questions, are these positions going to stay after ESSA? Are you going to have the money to keep funding them? So we have a lot of questions about the school district. I mean, they're the kids. But I'm just as worried as about if they get that 6% increase, what's going to happen to the rest of the city? And I'm going to tell you, I know how that spending cap, why it came to existence. I was part of it. And I fought for it. And I fought for the votes in this chamber, for the override. It's not the spending cap. We're blaming a spending cap. That's just a piece of paper with words on it. The problem it came because people couldn't control the spending, and it got so out of control, people couldn't afford their taxes on the property. And in Nashua, we're more of an aging population than a young population. Look at the schools. Thank you very much.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things there. I assume if we're asking Director Cummings, of all jobs, I would assume we would ask that of every department, I would think. I think we'd want that not just of his department, but of...
No, I'm talking the whole city.
Oh, is that what, okay, so we're asking for the whole city here, not just him. Okay, so that's including like fire, police?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to mention this, but somebody mentioned the COO position. That was like 2 years ago. That's like old news, and that same person argued about it then, so asking about it like it's a new position, she argued about that back then, so she might want to look at the tape on that. As far as the budget book, I mean, I get it. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily Director Cummings' fault that the budget books, I feel like we're dumping it all on him because he brought us some corrected stuff, but I don't want to say that it's all on him for the changes to the budget book. I don't know whose fault it is, to be honest.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. I agree. But I don't feel like we should just dump it all on him. Personally, I had, early on in this process, I had asked for some of the things we're still still asking for. But as far as like the new alderman and having to vote for it when it comes, I said this at the very beginning of this process. I said, you all are going to have to vote on this at some point. So, I mean, we could barely get quorum tonight. We got 4 out of 7. So never mind the people that aren't on the committee. And, you know, once in a while we get somebody, education was a big one, so we had a few other aldermen come to it. But and maybe, I'm not saying they're not doing their homework, because maybe they are. Maybe they're watching the videos, maybe they're looking through the book. But they're going to have to know this as much as we are, because they're going to have to vote on it at the end. We're just working on it in committee. But there's more than just 7 that's going to be voting on this thing. It's, you know, the rest of the board, that's the other half of the board. So I would, if they don't understand something, they need to ask the questions. We can't just assume that any book, no matter how good the book is, and the book was different the last years. We still had problems with the book. We still question stuff in the book, even when it was better than what it is today. So if they don't know something, they need to ask the questions right now. because they're responsible for voting on it for the whole city. And so I asked them, I hope that they're doing the work on it. And I know some of them, and I know some of them are doing the work. I would say Alderman Sullivan's doing the work on it, because he used to be on this committee. And I know he's doing the work behind the scenes. I can't speak for everybody. So I hope they are. I hope they come prepared. I hope they come to some of these meetings, or at least watch them, and are ready to do that. I don't think we should think we have to baby them. They're responsible, just like all of us. And you know, I try to do the work on committees I'm not part of either, as far as learning what's going on. But this is probably the most important thing we got in the city is the budget. It factors into every single department that is in the city, from education to police to fire and all the rest, including administrative services. I don't want to leave you out since you're here. But I hope that they're doing that work. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I know you guys all have day jobs, and I know some of you are coming from very far distances. So thank you for all coming today and helping present and answer our questions.
Okay, just two quick things. One, I have talked to some of the new aldermen. I explained to them that we have verbatim minutes from these meetings. We also have, because of our television people, we have the videos that they can watch. And they have to, you know, look at these meetings and get a feel for what's been asked and what the answers were. The other thing is President Wilshire tried to get on and couldn't get her video on VPN. So I don't know what's happening, but since we have the mindset of the entire television community out there, somebody might want to look into that. Final words, Director Cummings?
Yes, and the only reason why I'm speaking is because a request was made for all positions, and I think it would behoove me at this time to also make sure this body knows, and for everyone's edification, what's being asked for of us is going to be difficult to produce due to system limitations. And so what this decision was made 15, 20 years ago. I don't know why, but we don't have what's referred to as position control. And so we manage it the best we can, and certainly we'll produce what we can. We manage it through Excel spreadsheets. And certainly I think fire and police have a better handle on it, and we can work with them to compile everything. But I just want everyone to be aware of the fact that our ERP system does not track positions like the way you may think. It's something I had to learn when I first got here, because I was accustomed to having it done a little bit differently. And for whatever reason, it's just not been something that has been produced by our ERP system. And so I wanted to just make sure budgeted positions versus filled positions versus vacant positions and where they are in process being tracked. You know, we don't have our ERP system doing something like that. And so we do the best we can with what we have. I'm only making this disclosure because, you know, we'll provide you something, it'll be 90% accurate, but, you know, we may miss something here or there, and I just want you all to be aware of that, but we'll provide you what we can.
Okay,
Thank you.
Alderman Senate.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion on the floor is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 9:16 PM.